beloved. Rev here. Y'all, we have some dope guests on the People's Power podcast today. And this is going to be the dopest show yet. I hope that you all are ready for this one. However, before we introduce our guest for the day, let me give space to our incredible co host and deputy director of the People's Justice Council, the incomparable Lindsay Harper. Lindsay, what kind of power are you bringing to the people today?
Hey, I love it. Hey, Rev, Lindsay Harper here in Atlanta, Georgia, holding it down. The power that I'm bringing today would definitely be, I would say, the power of just good energy in the face of hard circumstances. There are a lot of very difficult circumstances across the country, and I would say specific to the Black community, just around redistricting and having our voices heard and have them count. It's hard, but I think good energy is the thing that is necessary.
Amen. It was great to be in Montgomery with the people on this past weekend. And I've also heard throughout the week that there are others who are out here advocating and fighting. But we also were able to cast our vote in Georgia. So I put my fight in the ring and made sure that I cast my vote and let my voice be heard. And I hope that many, many of you others who are out there listening were able to do the same and are able to do the same. Well, all right, beloveds, it's that time. The People's Justice Council produced our latest documentary called Washed, and this story is about the plight of the Shiloh community in Alabama. Shiloh is an unincorporated community in rural Alabama that's located next to Elba. Now, if you don't know, Elba is the birthplace of Dr. Robert Bullard, who's known as the father of environmental justice. Shiloh is experiencing man-made flooding. I'm going to say that again. Shiloh is experiencing man-made flooding. Because I'm a preacher and they say three times the charm, I'm going to say that one more time because I need you to get this part. Experiencing man-made flooding. And this flooding is caused by Alabama Department of Transportation. While the community whose lands have been passed down through generations are being washed away, the state of Alabama is remaining silent. Today, we have the documentary's features with us to further amplify their fight. These two warriors for justice have taken on this fight for their inheritance. Our guest today is Pastor Tim Williams, who is the executive director of Shiloh Community Center. And our second guest needs no introduction. He is none other than Dr. Robert D. Bullard, the father of environmental justice. Pastor Tim and Dr. Bullard, it is an absolute pleasure to have you with us today on the People's Power podcast.
Yes, Pastor Williams here. I'm just saying delighted and just an honor just to be on the podcast, the People Power podcast, even on today. We just want to tell you thank you for what you've done. A great documentary that documented the things that we're going through in the Shiloh community, and we're still fighting, to get justice. And man, we just want to say thank you, for the documentary, because in talking with a lot of people, they said, hey, this is explainable. I mean, you can see what's going on. A great documentary, that's explaining, the things that are going on in the Shiloh community.
Amen. Dr.
Well,
Dr. B, y'all, let me be clear with y'all. Now, you can't do this, but I call Dr. Bullard Dr. B. It's an affectionate term I call one of my dear mentors. Now, I wouldn't advise you to do it, but he's okay with me doing it. Dr. B, what's he got to say to the people?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, and thanks for giving this community the opportunity to speak for themselves and to show in living color what's happening on the ground. So you can believe your lying eyes that what's going on right now. I told people I've traveled all over the world doing environmental justice, fighting environmental racism. And if I can't go back home and fight for my people, for the community and the residents some of whom I went to school with. If I can't do that, they need to knock my name off the title of environmental justice. So thanks a lot for having me on this morning.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Doc. Listen, as I said on Tuesday, I went and put my money where my mouth is, and I cast my vote. Uh, but I do that because I've seen it done. I've seen it done through Dr. Robert Bullard. I've seen it done through Pastor Tim and so many others who take on this mantle to fight for justice for our communities, those communities that are often overlooked and underserved. But we take what we have, all of our profession, all of our skills, all of our influence, all of our voice, and we give it back. And I see this modeled through Dr. Bullard. I see this modeled through Pastor Tim. And once again, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for what you show to the people. Uh, Dr. B, you said this is both personal and professional for you. How is this both personal and professional?
Well, it's personal from the standpoint that Elba, Alabama, is my birthplace, and just 5-6 miles outside of the city limits is Shiloh community. You know, Shiloh is biblical, and when we talk about land, uh, my great grandfather and grandmother, Peter and Lucinda Hammonds, 1875, 10 years out of slavery, were able to acquire 240 acres of timberland outside of Elba, Alabama. We don't know how they got it, but they got it. Our position is don't ask, don't tell. It's still in our family from 1875 to now. That's personal. Trees, the sale of trees off that land, off that property, inherited property, uh, the sale of those trees sent my uncles, aunts, sent everybody in my family, my siblings, to college. There was no Pell Grant, student loans, none of that. That land inherited wealth, transformative wealth, intergenerational wealth. That's what's being attacked in Shiloh. So when we talk about my professional aspect, I wrote a book in 2004 called Highway Robbery: Transportation Racism and New Routes to Equity. And that book looks at, written 20 years ago. If I had to write that book today and put the cover, the title, and a picture on the cover, I put Shiloh on the cover. And so when we talk about highway robbery, this is the classic poster child example of highway robbery. A highway that's still flooding from a highway that's stealing people's land, their wealth, their inheritance, their history, their legacy. And we're talking Reconstruction land. You know what I'm saying? We ain't talking about land bought there last year. We're talking Reconstruction land. So it's been passed down. And black people survived slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow segregation, and still had the land. And you're going to let a highway that's built with federal dollars wash away your legacy and your history? We say, hell no, we got to fight.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
I'm sorry, Rev.
That was for Pastor. I've been doing this work with you long enough to know we share some of the
Oh.
same language. That was for Pastor Tim. No, we'll leave that for him. Uh, so Pastor Tim, we've heard of Dr. Bullock's experience with the land. What has been your experience with the land? Because you're the one that really opened this up and brought this to the forefront for everybody, and even brought Dr. Bullock back home to raise this issue. What's your experience?
Well, our experience in the Shiloh community, like Dr. Bullitt said, land has been in our family since Reconstruction. It has been passed down from generation to generation. When they talk with us, they told us, all of us, that we got to keep the land in the family. You know, we got to pass it down from generation to generation because it's generational wealth here in the Shiloh community. And some of our families are here on 500 acres, 600 acres. I was fortunate to be able to obtain my grandmother's home. It was passed down, and then other properties were passed down I didn't have to pay anything. It was just passed down from generational to generation, and I'm doing the same thing, passing down, to my children, and they would do the same thing to keep the land in the family. And that's why I'm fighting like I'm fighting. That's why I was able to call in Dr. Bullard back in 2023, June the 1st, which was on my birthday. I just obeyed God. Family was saying he done retired or he's all over this country fighting for people. And I was like, how in the world am I going to get Dr. Bullock back home? You know what I'm saying? And when I called him, he was getting ready to go out of the country. You know what I'm saying? And but make a long story short, I was able to get in touch with Dr. Bullock to tell him what was going on. And I share this story everywhere I go. I was on my way to Op to pick up some things from my carry out restaurant. And on my way, the Lord began to speak to me and say, "Get in touch with Dr. Bullard. It's urgent that you get in touch with him now." Not knowing that Dr. Bullard was getting ready to go out of the country to do some work and everything, and so on my way back, I was just contemplating, and the Lord spoke and said, "Go by Dr. Bullard's, brother's house." And so I was like, "Time is of an essence." You know what I'm saying? How am I gonna do that? But I obeyed God, and when I got to Elba, I swung by Leon, which is Dr. Bullett's brother's house, and I kept knocking on the door. And when I knocked on the door, here comes Leon, and he's like, "Don't you supposed to be at that little restaurant, man? It's about time for you to be open, right?" I said, "Yes, but I had to obey God." You know what I'm saying? And I said, "Let's call your brother. I got a video that I want to send to Dr. Bullard so he can see what's going on in the Shiloh community." And so we tried to call Dr. Bullock. We couldn't get no answer and everything. I said, "I tell you what, I got to get back to the restaurant, but let's send this video to Dr. Bullard." And we sent that video to Dr. Bullard. And about between the hours of 1 and 2, I get a phone call from Dr. Bullard, and his words was, "This is horrific." You know what I'm saying? And he began to tell me, he said, "If I can't come back home and fight for my people, I don't need the name of Dr. The father of environmental justice." You know what I'm saying? And he says, "I tell you what we can do." Less than 48 hours, we were on a Zoom call with Dr. Bullard. And here it is. He was telling us, he says, "I'm not going to just tell you one thing and do another." He said, "But I'm going to be there. You got my word on this." And, in the shallow community, people, we've been given false hope. People were tired, and here it is. This was like 5.5 years. We kept getting a no. You know what I'm saying? Every time we call people, they would tell us no, and they can't help us and everything. This was from FHWA to ALDOT. I remember when ALDOT told us, "Hey, this is your baby. Y'all live with this. You got to deal with this." You know what I'm saying? We're not coming to help you and everything. But when we reached out to Dr. Bullard, he was right there, man. I mean, he gave us his word. And so we gathered everybody together, and we were on a Zoom call with Dr. Bullard at the church. And he told everybody there that he was going to work for Shiloh and that he was coming back home to help the community. And man, and that was something to me, because just to hear Dr. Bullard say that, because hearing a lot of letdowns, hearing a lot of no's, you know what I'm saying? But here it is, Dr. Bullard, the father of environmental justice, is coming back home. He was gone for 50 some years, and here it is, he's coming back home to help us fight this situation. That meant a lot, man. And so that's why I fight like I fight, because this is our wealth, this is our legacy. We're leaving a legacy behind, and we don't want it to be tarnished. The highway came through and forced the storm waters and damage our homes, cause our homes to sink, our septic tanks to overflow, roof to crack and everything. And so we can't give up. I know a lot of people, they give up on stuff like this because they say it's too hard. You know what I'm saying? It's a fight. And even in this fight, I lost things. I lost my businesses. I've lost things in this fight, but I refuse to give up, and that's why I'm fighting like I'm fighting for the community and my family as well.
Amen. Amen.
I recognize that a lot of folks haven't necessarily seen the documentary. And so I want to make sure that we're speaking in a way that people can understand some of the details, some of the lived experiences, some of the examples that both of you gave, and I like the actual impact. One of the things that really, really, really struck me was the lack of consideration for the community. I mean, it was just egregious. I mean, my jaw was dropped. Like, minute after minute after minute after every example that was given. And so, like, for instance, like, not only do you have the highway and then the water is running, but you got the methane gas, stuff is
Yeah.
close by. Like, was anybody looking at the maps? Was anybody looking at the infrastructure? Y'all just throwing and building and digging and doing whatever you want to do. I mean, so there are multiple pieces of infrastructure that are coming together in Shiloh that are creating a confluence of circumstances that are out of this world. So this question is to both of you all, but maybe could you just share a little bit more about your experiences and what does the flooding look like in Shiloh? What are some of the other issues that are happening in Shiloh and made this documentary necessary?
And I think a part of that is what caused it. What has caused this flooding in the first place?
Hmm.
You know, we were put in a man-made situation, like Reb said, they created this. I mean, we were living a normal life. And, we didn't have to deal with flooding or anything, you know what I'm saying? Until they widened up US Highway 84, they only put our area in a bowl situation and then turned the water onto us, forcing the storm waters every time it rains real heavy. I mean, that place floods less than an hour, you know what I'm saying? And the water just don't just roll in slow, but it comes in with a force. And that's what causes the foundations to sink. It caused a whole lot of problems. Septic tanks to fill up. I mean, you can't even walk out in the yard. I mean, your feet is covered with water. You know what I'm saying? And this is not just regular rain, but it's forced storm waters over onto us as well. And that's a lot of water when you got three pipes that's turned onto you. And I can say this, it was done intentionally because I saw the construction from the beginning, how they were doing this. Even during construction, we were getting flooded. I mean, it was flooding us with red clay. You can see it on the house, you can see it on our vehicles. I mean, they didn't care about none of that stuff. We complained, even in the ABC News story, we complained about this stuff. We kept calling. I kept calling and phew, sorry. Um, man,
Take your time,
it's
Pastor Joe.
it's just it's sensitive. And not only is it sensitive, I get mad, because uh, nobody has to live like this. And seeing this whole thing when your whole life has been planned and, you know, you went from uh, a situation middle class and you start growing your business and you say, this is it. I'm gonna live the American dream. And and we went from struggling to now, we got a business that's growing by leaps and bounds and we're able to see better now, you know what I'm saying, to do things that we've always dreamed of, and then it get taken from you.
I know while I was filming, Pastor, you showed me some of the damages to your home
Yeah,
and to see your roof really in a real way splitting apart, to see your house itself splitting apart and the foundation sinking. And not only is it sinking, beloveds, but it's sinking toward the methane gas pipe. I need y'all to hear that.
yeah,
It's not just sinking. It's already bad that it's sinking. It's already deplorable that it's sinking. But with way that they put this methane pipeline next to this home, if this house sinks any further, it's gonna hit that pipeline.
that's right.
And that makes for a deadly situation, not only for that house, but for that community. I need y'all to hear this. And when Dr. B pastor brought me in and told me about this situation, unfortunately at the event that he first called, when he called a lot of environmental justice leaders together, I couldn't make it. I sent some representatives, but there was a lot of attention toward this. It was a great deal of attention toward this. And you had not only environmental justice leaders there and advocate groups that was there and organizations that showed up in support, but you also had government officials as well. And again, I mean, through your tears and through your cries, these folks showed up. And so, one, I want to say congratulations once again for the hard work that you've done for Shiloh. But I also want to ask the question: out of all of those that have showed up in the past, where are you all now in this fight? Where are the folks at now in this fight? What's going on with the attention now?
Uh, I'll get to that question. The fact that people know me for doing research, rigor, thoroughness, doing the homework, getting the facts, using the science, getting the data. But even when you do that, that's not enough. You must marry the science, the data, the research, and the facts with action. And that's where bringing this to the attention of our organizations, faith-based, the scientific community, uh, environmental justice community, people who are concerned about water issues, about health issues, and show that it's just one issue. It's a justice issue. And what's being done to this community is unjust. And when you document in detail, and I have to give Pastor Williams credit for being a good documenter, a good detailed for photographing and videotaping what happened in Shiloh before this highway was elevated 10, 15 feet above people's homes and expanded to 2 lanes, and the water, stormwater drains turned on them. Shiloh was peaceful. It was an entrepreneurial community, a farming community historically. They were not asking white people for nothing, begging. You can't be poor if you got 150 acres, no mule. But again, let's talk about what was done and why it was done. What's happening in Shiloh is a classic textbook example of environmental and transportation racism writ large. Textbook. I know
Amen.
because I wrote the book on it, 2004. If you look at the fact that you have a community that never flooded, it's not in a floodplain. Now, where I grew up in the city of Elba, it flooded. I know. I walked to school 5 blocks away, water to the ankles to get to the school in a all black segregated school system in a neighborhood called Mulberry Heights. That was not Shiloh. Shiloh was outside of the city. It was basically flat. The topography was for farming. And what happened is that somebody decided not to protect the Shiloh community. And they elevated that highway and they destroyed this community and they changed the natural draining of the area. Shiloh never had a flood problem, never had a drainage problem. That was the problem of Elba, where I live. And what happened is there are people who are in government officials that are just totally distorting the truth, the facts, by conflating the Elba's history of flooding from 1929 all the way up, and then we documented 13 cases up until 2020. That's Elba. That's where I grew up, but not Shiloh. And so when you say, well, Elba floods, and then they say, well, Shiloh floods, so what you whining about? Shiloh, Elba floods. Do not mistake those pronouncements by public officials who are saying that, and then other people saying, well, they should know. You flood. No, that's not the case. So the other thing is to somehow disrespect property owners. Property ownership in this country, for the most part, has been considered sacred, and that you have property rights. You have, and there's the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution says you can't, government can't take your property without just compensation. The fact that this water being pushed on them and destroying their property, destroying the use, the value, without their permission and without being compensated, that's a violation. That's wrong.
And it's not just, beloveds, I need y'all to hear, it's not just a home with a yard. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about acres of land. We're talking about a lot of land. And Pastor Tim, I walked your yards with you. I walked your land with you.
Right.
And there ain't no way in the hell they gonna tell me that this was already existing when I can clearly see your land degradation in a real sense. I'm seeing pits, pits in land from this water and the force of this water washing this land away, leaving, not when I say pits, I'm talking about craters.
Right.
I'm talking about if you dropped off of there, you would hurt yourself. And not only are you seeing this degradation of this land and this deterioration of land, but you see a trash that's filling up in it because they can't tell what's coming out the daggone drains.
Right. Yes, sir.
And Pastor Williams can get upset and he come out with tears, but I use Dr. Bullard's language, and this just shitty.
Yeah.
And you can't. I don't understand how people can cry heaven and talk about trying to get to heaven when they treat people shitty.
Right.
I think that's what the scriptures say. Something about doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you don't want it in your backyard, you shouldn't want it in nobody else's backyard either.
Here's another one. Here's another thing. The fact that this highway went from a 2-lane highway, a dirt road, and an old rail bed. That's what you had, all at grade, all at the same level. And then you're going to raise it, and so that the highway sits above people's rooftops. Everything that drains off that highway in terms of water and trash, when people throw bottles, cups, stuff out the window, it drains down, falls down into the community. So the community is becoming a dump. I wrote a book in 1990 called Dumping in Dixie. If I had to put another picture on the cover of Dumping in Dixie, I would put Shiloh. Shiloh is becoming a dump and a wasteland and a flood zone, all artificially done, man-made. This is not a natural disaster. There's nothing natural about racism that's basically washing away a community. This is unnatural and it's unacceptable.
Dr. Bullard, one of the things that really stood out to me, as an American, as a citizen, thinking about, the laws that are put in place. There are laws, there are regulations, space, there are laws, but laws only apply to certain people, apparently. Like, I noticed they came in, they're like, oh, you guys are having problems. We'll put a few rocks up in here. Rocks didn't really do anything. They're supposed to be legally a certain amount of distance, but it's like, why are we creating the laws if the government won't even follow them and they select who they want to follow them for? Like, what's the point of all this policy if we can't even put it into play? Like, what are we doing? I don't get it.
Well, we have laws, but the laws are only as good as they are enforced.
Mm.
And as it turns out in this country, and we're seeing this more today than ever, there are some laws that are not enforced when it comes to Black people's rights, whether it's voting or whether it's land property rights or whether it's dealing with environmental protection, etc. And in this case, all those things converge to be one. And the fact that people complain about the problem, they have photographs and video and take it to the state, and they don't believe it. They say, "Oh, that's not true. That's no problem. Get over it." And then when you talk about, well, you're just basically putting out false information that this area floods, a floodplain.
How is it
Well,
false? Got it on camera. What are you talking about? I'm sorry.
No. See, so some people just do not want the truth to come out, and they hide
Oh,
it.
yeah.
And the Federal Highway Administration is part of the problem also because they approve the plans and the money to build the highway in the first place. And then they spend the money to fix it after it was built. And then now they're going to talk about a new drainage improvement project that's supposed to fix that problem that was created by the first problem. And it's almost like a cover up, hiding the problem. And again, this has gone on, for 8+ years. And so it's like this community should not have to wait for justice when your facts are in front of them that this was unjust to do this to them, and they should be compensated, they should be made whole, and those who did it should be punished. This is the gist of this whole um uh uh a documentary in terms of washed. They're trying to wash away the truth. They're trying to wash away this historic community, and they're trying to wash away people's inheritance. That to me comes together and say, no, watch the documentary and see how plain it is. This is not rocket science, people. This is in your face, straight up. We're going to drown you because we have other plans for that land and you are not in the picture. So bye-bye.
And Doc, I didn't name it Flooded, or we didn't name the documentary Flooded. We named it Wash for a reason. We were intentional about the language we used when we named it, because I stood in Pastor Tim's yard and I saw this mound uh that right in front of me that was just as high as his roof was, with these drainage pipes facing his house and facing this community. And so when you look at water runoff, it has nowhere else to go. It was by design that these people inheritance are being washed away. And as I said before, there's been attention on this. But today I'm asking Pastor Tim as well as Dr. B. Well, first, let me go back and grab this real quick. Dr. B, can you speak to what it means for this community to be unincorporated when it comes down to receiving help?
Yes. The way it works is, in many cases, resources flow downhill from the federal government to the state, to the county, and to the municipality. In this case, we're talking the USDOT going to the Alabama Department of Transportation, and then the resources can go to the county, Coffee County, Alabama, or to Elba, the city of Elba. But Shiloh sits out in the county, unincorporated, and they've been doing well without government, as I said before. But government created this problem. So in order to get help, you have to go through different layers of government. And when the levels of government are not amenable to addressing an injustice, then you can get this this flooding of the community and moving a pipeline, a methane gas pipeline that was over 120 feet away from the community. You build a highway and then they move it. In Pastor Williams' case, it's less than a foot from his house. You're talking a pipeline that's pumping, I think it's 600 psi.
Yeah,
I mean, he can speak to that.
Yeah.
And I hope he does, because he can tell it, because he's lived it. I've seen it, but I haven't lived it. He's lived it, and that must be a terrible situation, and it is almost like a form of terror that's being pushed on them when it comes to the unknowns of what would happen if this house hits that pipeline.
That's right.
Nobody should live like that.
Oh, it'll be devastating because, me and my wife was talking about it yesterday. And every time, like I tell y'all, this stuff is mental draining. I mean, you have to explain this to your kids, and it's right there at their bedroom. They're trying to cope with this stuff, and it's just crazy when you hear the house popping, you know what I'm saying? And you don't know from day to day, and you're yet praying and just, Lord, get us out of this situation. Let us make it out of here safe, because in the news, I've sent Dr. Bullard many cases where gas line has blown up homes. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, we don't want to be a statistic. You know what I'm saying? We want help now, and that's what we've been crying to the people. Hey, we want help now. And I tell them every time I talk to them, either congressperson or our representatives, I said, if something were to happen, y'all are going to be held liable. The blood is going to be on your hand because we're yet advocating, we're yet calling you, telling you we're in a bad situation, we're in an emergency situation, and we need help right now. You know what I'm saying? And so and they be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. We've gone to DC talking to everybody in DC about this situation. Not one time, not two times, but three times we've been in Washington, DC, advocating for the Shiloh community, letting them know that this is an emergency situation and it's got to be dealt with, you know. And so just to see my daughters, I get up, y'all. Look, I don't get no normal sleep. 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm up walking the floors. You know what I'm saying? And that's not normal. Um, and I say we're living in a war zone. I mean, this stuff has affected us mentally, physically, you know. It's draining. You know, we just want normalcy. We want them to do what is right by the Shiloh community, make us whole, fix this situation, get us out of this, and let us go back to a normal situation. Because it's hell here. And I'm telling you, it is hell. It is hell. You're having to fight. Just I'm having to try to save my other property on the backside. That is that has been washed away, just like Reb said, you know, it just constantly work. It's constantly work. You got to constantly stay on this stuff, you know, and you don't want that to wash away because it's getting ready to wash all the way back up to the County Road 502, and you're trying to do everything you can. I've gone to USDA trying to get funds. They said they was going to help us. Then they said no. ALDOT did this. They got to take care. They got to fix this. And you're like, man, you know, we've been advocating. We've been talking about this, and we need help now. You know, the plans were that, hey, I can go back there on my property on the back and build, you know what I'm saying? But you can't build now, you know, because it's washing away. And it's like you're like, man, you know, and so and so you're like, oh my God, Lord, you know, we got to get out of this and we need help. And we're doing all the footwork, we're doing everything, you know what I'm saying? And just like Dr. Bullitt said, we've got videos. This is not a hearsay situation. This is real. I remember when Secretary Pete Buttigieg came here, and I told him, I said, this ain't fabricated what we're going through. We just need somebody to listen to us and hear what's going on and get us out of this emergency situation, man. You know, and make the community whole. Fix this stuff. That's all we're asking. You know, we're not asking for billions. You know what I'm saying? We're just asking to live a normal life. Get us out of this so we can go back to living our normal life and everything. You know, even with our businesses and everything, we just want to go back to normalcy. And so, Rev, this video has depict all of that, showing, you know, people, you know, what's going on. This is real. This is not fabricated. This is what's going on right now in the 20th century. Right now, we're dealing with racism, you know, and it's pretty much that's what it is. And I told Dr. Bullitt the other day, I went into a gas station, Roberts gas station. Now here it is. It's all about Shiloh now, you know, everything. And then when I get there, the people call me over to the table, the big wheels out here, the farmers, and they begin to ask me questions about this new plan. You know, they said, "Well, we hear that the detention pond is going to be put in the medium." You don't see that nowhere on 84 where the detention pond is put in the medium. Now, you know, they done lost their mind, you know, and I said, well, if they do that, then the amount of water that comes here is going to build up, and people that's headed to Elba, and if they run out the road or the water goes across the highway there, it's going to kill a whole lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Because it's going to rise up like it's doing here. You know what I'm saying? And people are gonna die. And so those farmers said, well, real, we don't want that. It's gonna hurt a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Then they went to say it's not just the Shiloh people, which is the black people, it's all of us that has been affected. You know what I'm saying? And we're not gonna allow it to destroy our businesses and stuff. And so we're gonna get on the phone and we're gonna make phone calls, you know, to different ones. And I said, in my mind, I was like, Lord, thank you. You know what I'm saying? Let them get involved. Let them see what it's like. But, you know, they told me we ride by and we see, You know what I'm saying? All this water being dumped on you after the rain. We see the build up and everything, and we just, asking everybody, you can get involved, because this is real. This is what's happening. I'm reminded of Dr. King when he says injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. You know what I'm saying? It's us today, but it can be you tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah. Here's another thing. Let me just jump in. Uh, this drainage improvement project that was brought about by the voluntary resolution agreement of the Title VI civil rights complaint that Pastor Williams and two other homeowners filed. It was settled, and now there's a plan to supposedly fix the highway and stop the flooding. But they don't ever mention flooding. They call it stormwater runoff. And the fact is that they have this plan, but they're not going to have a public information
That's
meeting
right.
on the plan. Now they got signs up on US 84 highway saying, "Oh, public involvement meeting. We want comments on intersections off of the highway." Now they got projects talking about intersection, but they won't have a public meeting on this dangerous situation in Shiloh, destruction of a whole community, but they won't have a public meeting on it because the community has questions. Now, the Alabama DOT sent out letters, 600 letters to homeowners along the highway, and then they announced the project. And then they set up an email address and a phone hotline to take questions and comments. But the community they sent comments in, and then they say, "Well, you haven't sent any comments in." It's all a sham.
Yeah.
They don't want to have a public meeting on this project because the community can give them information that they don't want to hear, and we can present information that they don't want to hear, and civil engineers from the University of California engineering programs are doing a study and can give them information that they don't want to hear, that this plan that they're talking about is a patchwork Band-Aid. They don't want to have a public information meeting. And the director of the Federal Highway Administration regional office in Montgomery, Mark Botley, who's overseeing the project for the drainage improvement plan, basically saying, ALDOT, you don't have to have a project, a public meeting, because you've satisfied your public involvement plan by posting up the email address and the phone line and them sending out information. We say that's baloney. That is just a checkbox. Now, I understand that Mark Botley, who's over the FHWA regional office in Montgomery, was there oversight when the highway was planned in 2017. And so he oversaw the civil rights complaint that was filed. He's overseeing the drainage improvement project that's being proposed. So his fingerprints are on this, good or bad. And this project, the highway was built under the first Trump administration, and it has bled into what's going on right now under the current administration. So we say, have a public information meeting and air all of the concerns that the community has about this project possibly not working. They won't even give you the answers as to what's the stormwater runoff calculations, what are the assumptions. They were wrong in 2017. They were wrong in 2019 when they tried to fix it, and they possibly could be wrong now when they talk about building something in 2026. Those are the questions that community folks have to ask, and they want answers, and they have the right to get answers.
That's right. That's right.
I'm wondering though if because you all are unincorporated and don't have a representative, if that has anything to do with you not having somebody to advocate for you in real time amongst council members, amongst the governmental systems, if that might be an issue or might be a contributing factor.
No, that's not a contributing factor because we have representation. Just because we're in a rural area, we have a congressperson, which is Barry Moore. We have representatives there, Katie Barrett, senator there. We have representation, but is though sometimes these are Republicans also, and they're taking their time. You know, they won't come see about us. Boots on the ground, as we say. You can see all the videos and everything, but once reality would kick in when you put boots on the ground and you really see this in real life. You know what I'm saying? And so we've contacted all of them and asked them, to come. Even when you're not in DC, come. You know what I'm saying? Come to Shiloh and let's see what's going on because we've got a problem. And the sad part about it is we've been reaching out to our governor. We've asked Governor Kay Ivey to come and look at this thing again because she signed off on it. You know what I'm saying? And she won't even come. She won't even entertain the invitation that we've extended to her. I mean, years over years. This has been going on 8 years. We've been calling on her to come, and she won't even come. You know what I'm saying? To see what she done signed off on. And so we've been advocating and asking these people to come and check it out and see what's going on. Now, I did get a call yesterday from Katie Britt's office saying that they're going to call ALDOT and ask ALDOT to go forth with the community meeting, for the community here in Shiloh to have the meeting. And then we've got an event coming up with different ones that's running for governor. Doug Jones and all, they'll be coming out. They're coming to Shiloh to help advocate also. You know what I'm saying? And so, man, I tell you, it's been a journey. It's not like we haven't been reaching out to the people. We've been reaching out, and some have come. Our representative, Rhett Moore, uh, uh, Rhett Marquis, excuse me, have come to Shiloh, and he was straightforward to us and telling us different things about how politics works and all of that. I ain't got time for politics. We just want this stuff to be done because they did it to us. We didn't do this. They pushed this on us and put us in it, and didn't even care about us and just said live with it. And that's a no. And then we pay taxes. My company, man, my company's paid big taxes. We have to pay taxes and everything. We're tax-paying people out here, you know what I'm saying? And so they're obligated to do for us what we ask them to do. And so we have representation out here, just that they're not moved because they're worried about what their partners are going to say and what other folks are going to say if they jump on this here, you know what I'm saying, and do something about it.
Let me just say, I wrote Senator Katie Britt a letter and
Right.
and put links um, to some of the flood events that's happening in Shiloh. And I wrote the letter in the spirit that I grew up in Elba, which is in Coffee County. Senator Britt grew up in Enterprise, which is like 15 miles away in the same county. And I was asking, for a Coffee County resident to a Coffee County resident, just send somebody or come yourself and see what's happening in Shiloh. See the horrific conditions that this highway has placed this community in. Once you are on the ground, standing 15 feet above people's homes on that highway, there's no way for you not to come away with some level of empathy, sympathy, and understanding that something needs to be done and done immediately. And that was my appeal to her staff and to the senator. And I haven't given up. I think that if the message gets to her and if she sees and goes through and follows through, I think they'll do the right thing. This is about people owning property and keeping their land and ownership, paying their taxes, doing the right thing, and living the American dream. Who's against that? And that's where I think our appeal is so appealing to those who may not ever thought about, well, I didn't know black people own land. Yes, we're not all crammed in the city. So that was why I think there's still hope, and we're reaching out, and you don't turn away help when people want to help you. You don't turn it away.
One thing I think has come to my attention that I think most black folks have known, but I think it's come to our attention more recently, is that the legislature will move on things they find are important. And I think our latest example of that is redistricting. Because within hours, y'all, Supreme Court making their decision around the Voting Rights Act, we had legislatures across the country at night, in the middle of tornadoes, making sure that they began their redistricting. So you all, Pastor Tim, Dr. Bullard, y'all are naming these names of representatives, heads of departments, and so the people are there. The resources, they have the resources. Obviously, they're willing to have conversations about the intersections, right? So it's picking and choosing who the laws apply to, what they want to move on, who's important, who's not important. And so for me, I mean, now that I know, and I'm hoping that people across multiple generations can see right now, is legislatures will move. They can move across any city, state, federal. It can happen. It's just whether or not people find it important. And so what I'm basically with this whole documentary, the stories you all have shared, they don't care. There is no other way for you to walk away with like a different understanding. You said too much, there's too much evidence. So, as far as I'm concerned, ALDOT, how are we pulling up my ALDOT? What are we doing? What's the plan? Like ALDOT is falling off as far as I'm concerned. And so what can we do? What can other folks do outside the community to support? This is ridiculous. I'm mad.
Well, the residents have a lawsuit against ALDOT, and they're bringing in other legal minds and to look at some of the other egregious civil rights and property rights and other kinds of rights that's been totally violated. And so when you have people working hard to get this story outside of Alabama, because there was a whole years and years that they wanted to keep this story inside
Right.
of Alabama and not let it come out, of the state. And I think what's this documentary is doing is adding to that messaging that it's in Alabama, but it's not just an Alabama issue. Black land loss is a huge issue, and when you lose your land and your inheritance and your wealth, and then they take away the vote, what have you got? You are back into just after slavery, and so that's what we're talking about. This land and this process by which your rights don't add up to the same rights that white property owners and white homeowners or white business owners. We have to show that when you attack all of those institutions, with its voting or with its ownership of property and businesses, you are basically taking away our democracy. And when you start peeling away for Black people, I mean, you just think about, some folks are going to be impacted also, because that highway, if just like the Rev Timothy said, that if they change the plan from a quarter mile to a mile, and expand the project from a $500,000 project to 1.3 million, it ain't just Shiloh's been affected.
Right.
Potentially, it's other white landowners, farmers, etc. And so they need to get involved. They need to, call for a public meeting to explain, for ALDOT to explain. And that's how we have to get to our allies who are not yet allies on paper. But the fact is that they got a dog in this fight, and they need to be speaking up too.
And I think, Doc, you always get on me because I tend to call you Rev every now and then, but I do that because you get me fired up, and spirit just connect with spirit. That's all it is. But Doc, there was previous rescues that have happened with folks in Shiloh, but it wasn't equitable. It wasn't equal restoration. It wasn't equal rescue for all of the community. I remember seeing the story. There was a white daycare that received an astronomical amount of money, considered considerable to the money that was received by the communities in Shiloh that are directly impacted, or the homes in Shiloh that are directly impacted, where they were able to get bought out of their business to relocate or whatever they did with the money. Pastor Tim is still sitting in the home where on the outside it's being terrorized by industrial pollution and environmental degradation. But on the inside, because of what they did and how they designed, they're also under assault environmentally or with their health because the rain that comes in floods not only on the outside, but it gets in the home as well, which has created mold damage, and consider and cause health issues. Pastor Tim, if you want to talk more about that, um, that'll be great.
Yeah, like we were saying earlier, how the waters has undermined the foundation and it has caused our roof to crack, and the house is going the route of that gas pipeline. And so the roof is cracked. And so it rains in the bathroom. We have mold every 6 months. We have to get that mold extracted out of the house because it's black mold, you know. We're dealing with some of that right now. And so yes, it has affected us in multiple ways, you know, our health, having to go to the hospital. That stuff gets in your lungs and, it caused some problems, you know. And so, yes, that black mold is terrible. And not only that, we just experienced like going on 2 weeks now. I left Friday to go to my daughter's honor day for the seniors, and came back home. Our floor in our bedroom collapsed. All right, we did not know the water was coming in through the basement on the bottom again because we elevated the floor a block up, right? And so it's coming through the blocks. They sealed all that stuff, and when it rains, it pours down onto my carport and it fills up, and that water seeps in. And so we wasn't thinking anything about it, but when we got home, the floor had collapsed. And you talk about ants, flying ants, they were everywhere. They had ate that stuff up because it was wet, it was damp, and I was like, "What in the world?" We worked for 2 days. We couldn't get a contractor out there, but it's a blessing that I took that up in school when I was going to school in high school. Uh, and so I was able to build the trestles back. I was able to build the foundation back, but it took 2.5 days for us to do that, to build that back. And when we saw that, we was like, "Wow." And my wife still have nightmares. She jumps up and she was like, "I thought you was covered in ants." And she just
Termites.
like she told me yesterday, she said, "I had a dream the bed fell through the floor."
Jesus,
I said, "It's still
jeez,
now, baby." It just traumatized the kids. When they called me, they were like, Dad, the floor done fell in and everything, and these flying ants is everywhere." They couldn't believe it. And my twins are headed off to college, and they said, "Lord, I can't wait till we get out of here." You know what I'm saying? It's one thing after another. You know what I'm saying? We need peace. You know what I'm saying? We need- They said, "Dad, are you all right?" I said, "Yes, I'm all right. I got to put my big boy pants on. I got to go to work." You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I said, "I can't
yeah,
let this
yeah.
stop us," you know what I'm saying? But we gotta keep moving
Yeah.
on because justice is just around the corner, and we're gonna get help, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna get help, and so I believe it's gonna work in our favor, but it's just a process, man. It has a way of tendency of draining you, when you're doing this fight and it's just you and your family, and you're just fighting this thing, and, other people are scared because they done seen what you done lost, how they did you, to try to make an example to everybody else. Hey, if you buck against the system, in Alabama, they used to hang you from a tree, y'all. But now they don't hang you anymore. What they do, they come after your finances, try to kill you. You know what I'm saying? Take away your finances and say, "Hey, that's the modern day lynching now in Alabama." They come after your finances and your land, try to strip you of everything. And so, yeah, that black mold is something serious. Also, in the bottom, with all that rain, we had white mold. So we were able to identify with white mold also. It was like, wow, you know, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. See. What you just said is a way to try to break you and break you financially, spiritually, emotionally, and make you give up the fight and give up your land. And that's what seeing uh uh Pastor Williams fight so hard and 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 how much he has lost. But the fact is he has to fight, because if he doesn't take this lead, there's nobody else out there to take the lead. So it fell on him. It's not like he just say, "Oh, I'm gonna do this because of the goodness of my heart." He did it out of the fact that somebody had to do it.
Yep.
That inspired me. You talk about land. I won an award, a couple of years ago from the Urban Land Institute. Uh, 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 and that award, uh, thank you, Jesus, came with money. It came with $100,000. Yeah, $100,000. And I said, what better charity to let that money be spent on land, black people land, and to keep the land than Shiloh. And so I said, okay, I donated 80,000 of that 100,000 to the Shiloh Community Center. Not that it's a lot of money, but as I said before, it's more than
That's
zero.
right.
And the fact that money can be spent to relieve some of the stress on Pastor Williams and his daughters and the other residents who are still fighting. And it's hard to fight when you're sick with mold, with bronchitis, etc. And so that's what I said. I said, I ain't just gonna come there and write about it and talk about it. If you need resources, I'm gonna try to help raise resources. That's what we understand, that you give back and you help. You keep your word. And as my daddy told me, you make your word your bond, and make your name stand for something. When I went back to Shiloh, I didn't just go back by myself. I went back with the Bullard Center for Environmental and Climate Justice from Texas Southern University, our rapid response team. You understand what I'm saying? So it wasn't just me. It was a team of us who said, we're going to work on this. And I have good, strong, young people.
That's right.
2 generations of fighters, experts, scientists. You know what I'm saying? That's what our movement has created, and that's why we're going to continue. They may take our federal grants, and they may cancel the funds, but they cannot cancel the Bullard Center, nor can they cancel the environmental justice movement, and they can't cancel this work that's going on in Shiloh. That's why we fight, and that's why we give back. And I told him, in I think it was 2023.
Yes, sir.
July. I said, I'll be back, but I'll come back with resources and come back with a team of folks. And we're going to make this known, and we will win.
That's right.
Justice is on our side. I'm optimistic, and I have hope, and I have faith. But my grandmother told me faith without work is what?
Dead.
Dead. Our movement is a live
right.
movement, and we're going to win in Shiloh.
Yes, sir.
And I say we.
That's it.
And now you all see why I call him Rev. But listen, I think that's a great place for us to end on. I think the call to action for all of us is for us to get involved. Not all of us have a great deal of resources. I don't have a bunch of money. That's not what PJC is. We're not a funder. We don't have a bunch of money. We got cameras. And as I've said, ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do with my cameras. And so we try to make ourselves available to tell these stories and to make these stories known. We've got a platform, and we try our best to put these stories on our platform so that those who need our support and need help can be amplified. Today, we've put Shiloh up in front of you, and in particular, the Shiloh Community Center, which is led by Pastor Timothy Williams. As has been said, they've been fighting this fight for 8 years now. Dr. Bullard said that Pastor Tim has received $80,000 within this 8 years. Let's be honest, you all, that's a drop in the bucket. There's a whole lot of more resources that's needed for this fight. You've heard Pastor Tim's plight with his home. You've also heard his plight with his family and trying to make sure that they're secure while he's fighting this fight. We need you all to give. We need you all to give in your time. We need you all to give in your treasures. We need you all to give in your talents to Shiloh Community Center so that we can all fight this fight. Because as was said, this fight is a fight that's happening in Shiloh, but it's a fight that's happening everywhere.
That's right.
It's not an isolated incident. This is just a sample size of what communities, in particular Black communities, are going through. And if you care, if you are concerned, this is for every faith leader out there. This is for every faith community out there. This is for every caring individual, every concerned individual, and every conscious person out there. If you care, give your time, your talent, and your treasure to Shiloh so that we can continue this fight. And when we win, we all win. As always, I offer to you love, peace, and light.
My daddy told me, your word is your bond. And in the end, all you have is your word. He also taught me never forget where you came from. I come from Elba, Alabama. This is my home. And you never forget the fact that when you come into some wealth, it says share the wealth. I was lucky enough to win Urban Land Institute Award last year. And I didn't ask to win that award because the work that I do, I was recognized. That award came with $100,000 cash. And I said, I'm going to share the wealth, grandmother. And I'm here today to share the wealth. It's a gift to the Shiloh Community Center, $50,000. It's not a lot, but it's more than just money. It's about showing that I care about this community and I care enough to give back. I want this to inspire others who may want to give back, who came out of Alabama, who are successful, and who want to give back to the community. It doesn't have to be their community, but this Shiloh community is a poster child for transportation, racism, and highway robbery. And we should adopt this community and do what we need to do now.
We've been coming to FERC since the fall of 2022, bringing community members who are directly impacted by natural gas projects to the commission so that they can have a voice, so that they can see how the process works, and also working to ensure that they can get some face time with the commissioners.
We're pushing to get help. We're pushing to make our voice heard.
Alabama DOT has basically put an highway right in the middle of their community that's causing flooding and other health issues because of the flooding. We're there to tell that story.
Here in the Shiloh community, we're dealing with forced storm waters. Waters have been forced over here on us. The highway has been elevated, and pretty much they put us in a bowl situation.
The Alabama Department of Transportation right-of-way should be able to contain all the water that washes into these drainage ditches and retention ponds, but it doesn't.
They turned all the water over here on this side, and so with the house here, the house is sinking. And then we are dealing with a main gas pipeline. We don't have anywhere else to go. We pretty much utilize all the money that we had to help with this project here in the Shiloh community where we live. It's just washing away our inheritance, washing away, our land.